Hey everybody, it's your old pal Dark Trennow back with another episode of the Toradora Discord server podcast. Joining me today is Smiling Joe 125
Hello.
and the legendary Hip.
Howdy.
So, spoiler warnings, guys. The main topic of this episode will be the Chinibyo movie. I believe it's the exact title is Take on
Yep.
Me. So, be warned, guys. But let's go ahead and hop right into it. So, starting with you, Hippard, was it the conclusion you were dreaming of as the world's largest CHUUNI fan?
I would say yes. There were definitely a few things that I feel could have been improved on. However, with the 90-minute runtime and the amount of material they had to work with, especially since this was not based off of any of the light novel material, it's completely original. So I think they did extremely well um, for as fun as season two was. They did not conclude pretty much anything, so they kind of had a lot to do with this movie, and I think that they still did that to an extent where they still could have those fun moments, like with the first half or so of the movie, with uh, focusing on them and traveling and whatnot. But I definitely think in the last 30, 45 minutes or so, they really captured what made the end of season one so good, and really kind of solidified where their relationship is going, where her Chunibyo is going. Um, I wish the side characters had a little bit more of a solid conclusion. I mean, they did have that uh, kind of monologue at the end, but I feel it could have been a little bit more fleshed out. But again, with a 90-minute runtime, they didn't have too much to work with.
Mm. I think especially within the lens of the short runtime, it's really good. Um, I really enjoyed just the fact that they it's a movie about Yuta and Rika. It gets it done and it does it
Uh,
well.
Right.
yeah, and you got to imagine it's been 4
Um,
years since any of these people have gotten in the same, production and actually acted together, and it kind of because I've read a few interviews. I mean, not a whole lot of them are translated or whatever, from like the director, and he said it was very different seeing everybody back together after so long, because they really didn't expect to be doing a movie because the budget
right.
was. I mean, they had budget, however, there were other interests that they wanted to pursue, and there were a few complications, but I think it was really good for being after 4 years, and then the 90-minute runtime. I think it did very well for those circumstances.
Yeah. What about you, Joe?
Pretty much the same as Hip for the most part. Myself personally, I would put it on par with season one. I gave season one an 8 out of 10, I believe, and season two a 7. So I'd definitely give this one either an 8 or an 8.5. I personally
Mm.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I'm glad that they in the 4 years between season two and the movie, they didn't forget everything they had done with CHUUNI. So it was like they'd still felt had the same atmosphere and character to it, like they still had great quips. Um, the characters still looked like they were done within the same art style. They looked consistent. They looked a little bit like they had aged, which was very fitting for the amount of time that passes, that sort of thing.
Right.
Um, and so I was like, I'm glad that they didn't just uh, look at it as saying, well, we have a bunch of new ideas, and we'd really like to try it out on what should be the biggest fitting conclusion, you know. So I'm glad that they played it more safe. The only thing that I think really hurt them by playing it more safe like that was just that Nibatani, my favorite character, and then Dekamori really don't do a whole lot beyond provide comic relief.
Yeah.
Um, because even Sachimia actually has some really good moments in the movie that wrap up her character. And I felt Nibatani and Dekamori specifically were just a little lacking in that department. And of course, they shoehorned in Ishiki.
Yeah,
Um,
I never really understood why he was just kind of shoehorned in all of a sudden. Like they were
and I
on
really
they were
don't
on the
know if
train when
they're.
they met him, right, or something.
Yeah,
And it's like
yeah.
like
It was
why
just
is
they
he
look
here
over and
again?
it's like, oh hey. Here's just Ishiki completely by himself in the same train. What are the odds?
What are the odds? What a quinkity.
Oh man. Yeah,
um,
because Shin is very fond of Ishiki and was very upset when
yeah.
he got taken out, and so we watched the movie together. I watched it with him for his first time, and like
Mhm.
I kind of gave him a 5 minute heads up of like I didn't know if he was gonna be upset or very relieved that he was in the movie, and he seemed very amused.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure there exists like a surgery or medical procedure that allows us to bring back Ishiki from falling this low.
Yeah, it's a little bit too late for him.
Yeah.
But he was pretty good in season 1. I liked him then.
He's
Yeah.
much better in the light novel because they don't have as many of the side characters, and the light novels were rather short, but the light novels focus more on Ishiki in the first one, and then Shimi has a really good arc in the second one.
Yeah, isn't like of what we would call the main side characters, like Kumin is the only one mentioned in the light novel, and that's just like a side passing mention of her.
Nibatani is mentioned in it. She's not in it too much. I think Kumin is mentioned by name. I'm not too sure. I haven't read the light novels in a while, but I know Nibatani is mentioned. I think she speaks a few times, but Dekamori is nowhere to be seen in it, like at all.
Probably for the best.
That was a wise choice. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to be honest, because I've never read any of the light novels like that. But when you mentioned that it's completely an original work, I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of impressive for what they did.
Yeah, the first two have been fan translated, and the last two, the fourth and final one, finally got released at the end of 2017. So there is no more Chunibyo content coming out as of now, and I doubt there will be, because I've uh, I've talked to and seen a few reviews for the fourth light novel, and I'm hearing the same thing as the movie, is that it wraps up everything pretty nicely, and kind of just it's kind of clear that that's the end, and we're not going to see anymore.
um, does the light novel up to 4 get like up to the movie? Is that like just pretty much it in
I
print
have no
or?
idea what the third and fourth are about. I only the first and second follow the first and second seasons pretty, like kind of loosely, but also kind of accurately. It's a little strange how they do it, but the third and fourth I don't think have anything to do with the movie at all, as far as I
Oh,
know.
okay. Um, Now that we have seen it, well, I guess I want to consider it wrapped up just because I feel like that's what the movie was being hyped as,
Hmm.
like when it was finally getting fan translated and everything, or fan subbed. Well, same thing, but that it was the big conclusion to CHUUNI. But I guess it's actually possible because you're the one who first told me about this. Like, there's still kind of hope for another OVA.
Yeah, I would say if by the end of this year or maybe I'm gonna say summer of next year is the cap off for when they're gonna announce an OVA, because even if they were to announce that year after, now or 2 years after the movie, that wouldn't be really smart because you want to capitalize after the popularity of the movie. And since
Right.
all the Blu-rays are
Hmm.
out, and then the dub is coming out pretty soon, which I don't really care for the dub, but I feel either by the end of this year or maybe 6 months from now, if it's not announced, then I'm gonna say that they're not doing anything else with it.
I guess that's a pretty good assumption. Because yeah, I remember you talking about it, and that the movie did really extremely well, if
Yeah,
I recall correctly.
yeah. There's a guy on the actual Chunibyo server that he said he went and saw it like 7 times or something, and he
Oh
loved it.
God.
And he said that was the case for a lot of other people, and people are still fans of it. Like, that guy said that one girl was dressed up as Rika or whatever, and they had like a photo booth, and everybody was really excited and seemed excited. So there's definitely still an audience for it. However, I think it's more just, do they want to make more? And it's not even a question of the cast, because from what I've read from the interviews with the cast, they love making it. Like, they're very passionate about it. However, I think it's more just either money or you know something of that sort. But it definitely still has an audience from what the movie goes to show that after 4 years, people are still interested.
Um, yeah, the cast are all big friends, right?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Deka Mori's voice actor is actually like a legitimate like real life Chunubyo. Like she's obsessed with like Russian culture and wears these really frilly dresses to
Oh
photo
God.
shoots. I mean you should really look into it. It's some interesting
I
stuff.
imagine it's a very large rabbit hole.
Yeah, the most frustrating thing is when I'll find an interview, but it's not been translated yet, and I don't want to learn Japanese just for Chunibyo interviews. So
Well, I guess you're not a real CHUUNI fan.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I can get a gist of it from the ones that have been translated. Like I know Maya Uchida, Rika's voice actress, she really liked her role as Rika, and it really got her into her career and let her kind of embrace being the fun parts of being an actress. And I think same with everybody. Everybody really enjoys the show and they have it in they think of it fondly from what I've seen from interviews.
Um, how would you rank the characters' conclusions, like on an individual scale,
Um,
like from worst to best, and give us your reasoning, both of y'all.
I think I'll go first. Rika and Yuta's
Go
was
right ahead.
obviously the most fleshed out, and I think the best because now we have a clear indication of where the relationship is going, of an idea of where Chunibyo is going, where you know them as a whole are going. Um, obviously we finally get the kiss and everything. Everybody's happy about that.
About damn
Finally.
time.
Um, but I think they did really well on that, and that was mainly what the movie was about. Obviously, I think next would probably be Kumin, just because of her, I don't know, like little monologue at the end. And same with Shimiya, how we can still see that after all this time, Shimiya is still kind of, she hasn't come to terms with any of what's happened really. I mean, she kind of has, but she's still indecisive. But Kumin, how she was saying how it's not necessarily for her to decide or anybody else. It's between Rika and Yuta. So I think that was a good development. And we've seen that kind of throughout the show where she kind of shows just general wisdom in general because she's the only one there that isn't really a Chunibyo. Um, then next would be Nibatani and Dekamori. I wish when they were on the like that little cliff outlook by the ocean, I wish they had like a nice little like genuine
Heart to heart.
conclusion. Yeah, like a heart to heart. Whereas where they just kind of made a few jokes and were like, oh, it's kind of like that. But I wish there was
Yeah,
a
they were
little
both
more.
really, really reduced to comic relief in this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, again, with a 90-minute movie that was the sole purpose was to resolve Yuta and Rika's relationship. I think they really wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think that I agree. That was the major focus, and like I said, I'm really glad they finally just kissed at the end of it, and that whole scene, which we'll talk more about later in this, was done really well, especially with the visual effects. But what about you, Joe?
Pretty much the exact same as Hip for pretty much all of it. I was a little bit more disappointed with the Nubitani and Dekamori. More so for Nubitani since I actually really like their character. Kumin, probably. I want to say she's my favorite character in CHUUNI, so I was really, really happy about what they did with her.
Mm.
So overall, I really enjoyed it, but except for, obviously the comic relief of those two. I thought it was also pretty interesting about how the sister was handled. What's her Toka? I
Toka.
think her name is
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked how it was handled too. I found it kind of kind of crazy about how just how trying to think of a good word for it, bloodthirsty it was she was for like just trying to go after those two. But yeah, overall I really like what they did with the characters and their conclusions for the most part.
I felt that really. So from the worst was just Ishiki, just because shoehorned. Need I say more? Then second, though that would be the only one I'd say was bad, just because, and that stems all the way back to season 2. It's just like, where did Ishiki go and why? Um, then probably Dekamori and Nibatani tied there, just because they were, like Joe said, largely reduced to comic relief, and as much as, and it was good comedy. It's not like it was bad comedy. It's not like we watched them for 90 minutes just romp around and unfunnel. It was great. They played. This word isn't right, but the phrasing is mythos, the CHUUNI mythos. That's what we'd expect to see, is unintentional Nibatani x Dekamori. And they did that, and that was funny, of course. Then next, I'd say with Toka, just because it was Toka, not the most complex character, much to the irony of it all at the end of the movie. but like, it was good. It's like she's just running around beating up the rest of them. And that's kind of, that's what I expect from Toka.
Right, yeah. Not much else
Um,
you really expect from her, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you really, yeah, and that's not bad. Like, that's one of the cool things about any fiction, any work of fiction, is it's cool to actually have characters exist within very defined domains, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I forgot Kumin. I'd probably go Kumin next. Well, maybe Tsuchimiya. That's hard, because Tsuchimiya I thought had some really good moments, but so did Kumin. Um, Kumin was always laying down wisdom pretty well, and Tsuchimiya was putting that ant that anti-Rika spin of thought on it. Rika's trying to figure out what she wants and what she's trying to do in life, and Tsuchimiya is saying you can't have both; it's one or the other, etc., etc. And made, it was a good villain.
Well,
Right.
that's another thing I really
It's
liked
like,
about this movie, is because we have the first season where at the end we have Toka kind of forcing her to come out of her Chunibyo, and that was kind of the arc at the end, is is she gonna stop being Chunibyo? How's that gonna play out? And so we see Toka kind of force her, and we see that doesn't work at all. She gets really sad. Um, and then of course Yuta knows that that's not the correct way to do it. And then with season 2, we see Jimiya kind of confronting her and doing a similar thing, except with more kind of Yuta in the equation. And that obviously was not the way to do it, because Shimi got hurt and Rika kind of got hurt in that, but not really. But with the movie, we actually see the conflict within Rika. Like, she is actually questioning her actions. It's not her sister that's making her do it. It's not Shimiya. It's just her and Yuta. And I think that's really what the relationship needed, was more. The conflict needs to be between them and not between them and Shimi or them and Toka. I mean, it needs to be, both of them need to actually talk about it and work it out and talk about their future, and that's what the ending did. After Rika runs away, because when she ran away before, that was because of her sister and she was forced to do that. But in this case, it was from her. She wanted to do it, or maybe not wanted to, but she felt like she had to. But by the end, we see her come to terms with the fact that she's going to change. She's going to lose her Chunibyo eventually. However, Yuta's going to be there with her, and I feel really that is what made this the conclusion, was more them resolving it and them actually working it out and talking about it, more than having somebody else come in and make her question her choices. It was actually her doing the questioning.
what do you mean by that?
It was more, like I said earlier, it didn't come from Toka or Shimiya. It was actually Rika. The more she was with Yuta, she realized she was kind of losing that Shunibyo aspect, or changing, and she got scared because of that. But before, that was because of other people, but now it's because of her. So she needs to actually come to terms with herself. And so now Yuta, that's where Yuta comes in, is because he needs to be there to affirm her and say, hey, even though you change, I'm always going to be with you. That kind of deal.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that, because that was I like CHUUNI. It's so much fun to watch. Watch it if you haven't, and if you're listening to this and you're here, you just want to hear our thoughts before you decide if you want to watch or not, watch it. It's good. But the one thing that always really bothered me was I kind of felt like Rika was too static at times because it seemed like I was ready for her to develop some and not try to hang on to one thing or the other or try to desperately cling to both of them. There has to be some sort of understanding that you have to come to. Um, and that's what the movie does. Is it's finally it lets you hear from all the different sources and everything. Sources being like Suchimia, her own thoughts, that sort of thing. Um, but she finally comes to terms with herself and her relationship with Yuta, and I thought that was done well.
Hmm.
Um, dang, I lost my train of thought.
Pepperoni.
Yeah. Um, Joe, what was your favorite part of the movie?
Favorite part, probably gonna be a little bit generic by saying this, but definitely when they actually finally, gosh darn, kissed. Took them 2 seasons, finally. Like, but yeah, it was really well done. I like the timing, yada yada yada. Um, I really, really, really enjoyed seeing them finally actually develop more as a couple and whatnot.
Right.
It was very refreshing, compared to compared to the other seasons and the cock teases that we got.
What about you, Hip?
um, I really just like the last 15 minutes in general because it really captured what Shunibyo means to me, and it's kind of accepting people for who they are and uh, kind of being okay with change and having people there for you and that kind of thing. So I really think that that really nice exchange between Yuta and Rika really captured what the series is to me. So I'd probably say that as well. No, I mean not just the kiss, but more just them accepting each other.
Right. Um. All right, I'm gonna try to put you guys on some defense offense positions if y'all are okay with that.
All right.
So,
Um,
Hip, you like the majority of CHUUNI, right? There's very few things that you would say are done wrong or bother you. Is that correct?
yeah. I'm gonna use the restroom really quick. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Sorry
Okay,
about that.
that's fine. That's okay. But this just gives us more time to plan exactly. What Joe? What are the things that bothered you specifically about CHUUNI that you felt were on the weaker side?
Just in general, or the movie?
In general, movie if you can, if there were specific things that
Hmm. As yeah, let's see. Probably just how long it took to get to, like, any sort of development at all out of Rika. I mean, I know she had some here and there, but it felt like she never really changed that much. Like, it's still just the exact same person still. Which, I
right.
mean, is fine in its own way, but I would have liked to see something.
The problem is it CHUUNI without CHUUNI.
Exactly right. That's the issue. But I enjoy seeing characters change and grow older and that kind of crap.
Hmm. A reflection of yourself.
Oh yeah, exactly a reflection of myself. But apart from that, obviously the whole bunch of cock teasing that happened. I don't want to wait another gosh darn season to have them like hold pinkies or something like that. Like I understand the idea of taking things slow, but goddamn man, come on now, really. But I will say at least we got some sort of conclusion with it because there are so many different romance animes out there where they just do nothing. They're like a
Or they
couple.
rush the hell out
Yeah,
of
they
it.
either rush the hell out of it or they're a couple and nothing happens. Like they don't. They're just like, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you too, and then that's it. The series ends, and it's like, well, can we see a little bit further into the future? No. Oh, okay. All right. Thanks. There are way too many of those, and at least we got something with Chuni.
Right. Um. Yeah, so when he comes back, we'll see if he has a nice spirited response to that.
Right, right. But what about you? Is I imagine yours is kind of similar to mine, but like
It pretty much is
yeah,
because there were many things I liked about season 2 a lot more than season 1. Um, I kind of thought Rika got off easy in season 1.
yep, yep. I would agree.
and and but she had a good reasoning. I like the idea that there was, a traumatic thing that,
Right.
so because that's, you know me, I like science a lot. Um,
You?
I like that, it was reflecting that psychological thing, that retreat into childhood, to escape your
Yep.
problems because childhood is the
Happy fun place.
yeah, it absolves you of responsibilities and things like
Right.
that. I wish that came up again in the series. I think that was kind of a waste to be like, all right, season one's done. We'll never bring that one up
Like
again.
something else
Um,
traumatic happened, like Yuta got into like an accident or something, and then she regressed further or something like that, maybe?
no, it's just that they never really touch on it again. And if it was enough to kind of set her into her CHUUNI ways, I think what it really comes down to is the lack of definitive Rika
Hmm.
growth in season 2. Um, that she just kind of it's never something that she thinks more about and works through and because I'm just stumbling with words here as the master of the English language I am. If she were developing more, it would be something that she would come to more definitive terms to,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Versus just saying, "Well, we found the invisible boundary lines. Let's get the hell out of here, Yuta." But while you were gone, Hip, um, counter this if you would, if you feel that it is worth countering. Joe says that CHUUNI's biggest problem, if it can even be called a problem in your opinion, is that Rika does not experience a lot of growth as a character. Agree or disagree, and why?
Um. Hmm. I definitely think her growth as a character could be a bit more. However, I think a big part of her, how do I put it?
Your character.
Yeah, her character
Just rip into him.
is
Just
how
rip
she's
into him, Hip,
affected by
like
it,
a
and I don't
starving
think
animal.
that should be. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I need a little bit to think about that.
Go right ahead. The point I made to him earlier was like, is it really CHUUNI without CHUUNI though? And that's hard to, I imagine, to
Well,
develop
Yeah,
around.
we see
exactly.
that second to last episode of season one where she actually drops the act, and we see how that affects her, and that kind of
Mm.
makes you see why she's like that more, and why without that what she would be. And another part of it is more the harsh transition from, there's not a natural kind of change. It's like one day she is CHUUNI, and then when Yuta kind of yells at her uh, after they confess, then she takes it off, and it's very kind of jarring. Whereas I think the message it's trying to convey is that it should be more of a gradual thing than I don't know, than like a sharp kind of you need to be this way kind of deal.
I guess I can see that. I can see that.
Right. No, I see where you're coming from as well. Um, Putting it on the reverse here, is there something you feel that could be improved that perhaps Joe simply disagrees with you on?
um, I don't know.
I imagine this is hard because CHUUNI has done no wrong in your
I mean, he's
eyes.
definitely done some wrong, but a big part of it is just the emotional connection I have to it, and more just it's
Oh yeah.
so I don't know.
So
It
maybe
came to me at a really like important time, and I kind of have that connection to it as well. But I there's definitely problems with it. Like I definitely think character development is kind of a weakness with it. I think Yuta, uh, contrary to how some people think, I think Yuta actually has some of the most character development in the entire show out of anyone.
yeah,
Oh, I
I'd agree with that.
agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because I've heard people argue like, oh, he always stays the same. He always hates Rika's Chernobyl. But you see in the movie how he kind of is more tolerant of it.
Yeah, and even in at least I think a little bit in season two, he's slowly getting more and more tolerant of Rika's shenanigans.
It's not even tolerant. It's actually more of just an acceptance of it, and he's accepting who she is and why she's that way, and uh, it's kind of as he gets to know her more, he's starting to care about her more and just love her for who she is instead of wanting her to conform to a certain kind of
Standard.
standard. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Yuta's undergone a tremendous amount of development. I'd say him more than anyone else,
Yeah.
really.
I don't know.
I can't imagine there are people out there like, oh no, definitely
Yeah,
not
I
Yuta.
just can't think of how people like. I guess unless they never watched like the movie or anything really that closely.
I think
Yes.
part of it is because a lot of people just focus on the girls in the show and kind of focus on their
Oh.
relationships and less on Yuta because and that's even kind of the a fault of the second season because he's not even in the opening. He's in none
Yeah.
of the cover art or anything. It's kind of I don't know. I wish they did something more with him in season two, but definitely I'm glad he was a big focus in the movie. I liked a lot of his jokes, like the recurring one about him and God and
Oh yeah.
Because apparently Odin.
Is always speaking in an angry tone, even if the context is not angry.
Yes.
Um, Speaking of the whole recurring God joke, what was y'all's favorite joke in the movie? Can be a line, a scenario, just whatever made you laugh.
For me, probably the again speaking of the god of the god jokes is I forget exactly how it went, but just how he was I'm sure Hip can help me out with this where he's like thinking of like really thinking of putting the moves on Rika, so to say.
yeah.
I think you know what I'm getting at, yeah.
Was this the one in the hotel?
Yeah, the hotel. Yeah, yeah.
And then God is just like, oh, just good luck. You can handle it.
And it's just like, oh, thanks, man. Thanks for letting me out like this.
That's like when you're doing math homework and you ask your parents for help, and then they go see like it's like, oh, that's that right there's calculus. We didn't have to do calculus when I was in high school. I'm sure you pay attention in class. You'll do great. And they walk away and you're like, all right, thanks.
Yeah. That sounds a little bit too familiar.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I guess I'll do my favorite kind of gag right now. I don't know. I just really like the comedic kind of tone. Although I think for the first half it was a little bit overbearing. There was kind of a lot of humor, but I mean, like that's a big part of what makes Chunibyo so much fun is just the humor and how kind of outlandish but also genuinely funny it can be at the same time. And that's something I was worried about before the movie. I was worried that they were kind of gonna lose that feeling of that the first two seasons had since it had been so long since only 4 years, but that's quite a bit of time since the last one. But I mean they nailed it, and they actually really built upon because since it's a movie and it's just one kind of sitting that you're watching it in, they could actually have those recurring jokes, whereas with an episode you only have 30 minutes to kind of play off of jokes. I kind of wish they did more jokes about Nibutani and Dekamori. Well, not more Nibutani, but their kind of not just their relationship, but the bond that they made in season 2, and especially with Nibutani kind of with the whole fake Mori Summer stuff and kind of coming to terms with that. I really wish they kind of paid homage to that a little bit more. It kind of seems like they just forgot about it. Like she only talks about her being Mori Summer like once, and I think that's a big part of her character is how she used to be CHUUNI, but it's okay.
My personal favorite was just they're standing at the top of that tower, they're looking out down, and Rika just like points and she's like, the people look like pieces of garbage from up here.
Also when she's
Oh, that was a good one, yeah.
when they're looking at the mountain and she like summons a laser beam and then
Oh.
and then Yuta just looks so done, and she's like, "Yeah, that was cool."
So proud of herself.
I also like that she's running away, and I can't remember what exactly she was running from, but she just slams like straight into
Oh
that
no 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 no
street
no no no
sign.
no! That was right after he gives her the ring, and she's like, "Oh, hold on a moment," and then she runs away.
Straight
Yeah.
into a pole.
And how when she's talking about her mom and the phone call she had with her mom, and she runs away and then just slips on the snow. She's like, "Oh," and Yuta's like, "Are you okay?"
I don't know, like situational humor is probably pretty low on the comedic totem pole, but they did it really well. um, so converse of that, was there any jokes that like should have been great, but they just kind of fell flat with you?
Um, I don't know. I feel the build up to the kiss. I wish instead of kind of making fun of the kiss more towards the beginning, kind of hinting at it like, "Oh, are they gonna kiss or are they not gonna kiss?" I wish they would have been kind of
Mm.
more serious with that, because it is a big deal, but they kind of, because they know people really wanted to see it, and I feel they were kind of just flaunting it like, "Oh, are they gonna do it or are they not gonna do it?" That kind of deal. Where I wish they had a nice build up where, they would almost kiss or something, but he'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna wait." But instead, they kind of have the playoff with the God thing, which is still pretty funny, but I wish they would have just had a better build up to it instead of, "Oh, we're gonna make jokes about the kiss and then we're gonna have the kiss," that kind of thing. I wish they would have had more of a,
Mm.
I don't know, that kind of thing.
How about yourself, Giuseppe?
I can't really think of one off the top of my head, to be honest. I thought all of them were.
That's
I
okay.
thought all of them were at least a little bit funny. The ones that I can remember, at least. Probably for that reason that I can actually kind of remember them.
I wanna.
I laughed a little bit at all of them, at least a little bit. The only ones that kind of like wore on me when it was like like the fourth time they've made a Dekamori X Nibatani joke. You're kind of like, okay, yeah, we know like these characters are not being used for anything other in this movie.
I'd also like to bring attention to the Rika cosplay scene where Yuta gets that very stern face and thinks about Rika cosplay. Uh,
I'm trying to remember that one. Can you give us
oh,
the rundown?
when they first find the love hotel or whatever, and Rika's like, "Oh, costumes," and it's like on a big screen.
Yeah.
And then-
Costumes.
And then that's the first time that Yuta asks God about thinking dirty thoughts about her, and he's just like, he says something like, "If as long as it stays in your head, then it's okay."
Yeah, that's right. Now,
Yeah,
okay.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
lines.
because
from the
it's
movie
like,
that
is it
can-
okay to have lewd thoughts about the same person in the room or
There's a
whatever?
lot of lines that can be taken out of context, I'd say, like that one, and then there's one where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna kiss her without her consent" or something.
Oh God, yeah, that's a little bit.
But the point of that line is because right after he's like, "No, no, I'm not gonna do that," but if you just have that screen cap of it, it kind of.
Gonna kiss her without consent. Yeah, it's a little bit not very good.
I used to know a guy well, I still know him actually. He's still in a couple servers on Discord I'm in. But like his name for a few months was like consensual hand
Oh
holding.
gosh. Filthy.
How disgusting.
How just despicable.
Despicable.
Speaking of despicable, how did you guys feel about the hotel scene? That whole.
I thought it was
I thought it was
interesting,
funny.
to say the least. To say the absolute least.
I really like how they went from Rika calling him like One-chan, and then right into Yuta saying, "I guess I'm not the big brother type," or something like that. I think Shin made a joke or something while we were watching it. He was like, "I didn't know we were watching Oremo." I was like,
God. Yeah, the whole thing of where they're trying to. That's almost a trope in animes where they try and like get into like a hotel or somewhere they're not supposed to be.
Yeah, but I think it's
Well, they have
playing
to
off of that because
pretend.
they initially go to the love
Right? Yeah.
hotel and
Yeah.
then they get kicked out. But I mean
Yeah.
they kind of are embracing it, and it's definitely very fan servicey. But I also think it's more, I don't know.
Cute.
Before I ask Hip a special question, is there anything else regarding CHUUNI or the movie that y'all would like to talk about?
Um,
Not for me, at least.
I don't know. I guess I'll just say that uh, I don't know. It's meant a lot to me since I first watched it, and the movie was very satisfying to watch. It was as a very big Chunibyo fan, I was very pleased by it. I mean, obviously I'm a little biased, but I mean I think out of the server I wanted it to succeed them more than anybody because I care about these
Oh
characters
yeah,
so much, and I want this franchise that I care about to do well, and it's just it was nice to actually have more Chunibyo content to watch because it took a good 5 or 10
yeah.
minutes for me to sit down after watching, during watching it, that opening sequence, and I was like, wait a minute, this is new content, like, because I was so used to just rewatching season 1 and 2, I was just in that mindset, and the day it came out, Mo and we binge watched the entirety of season 1 and season 2
God.
back to back for like 12 hours. So it took a while for me to realize that I was actually watching this thing that I've been waiting for about a year and a half. But after when I initially, I was so happy to finally have more content. It genuinely made me happy. So
I agree. It was nice just to have something new CHUUNI to watch because I watched seasons 1 and 2 over a pretty quick period of time, and it was kind of like, oh, like when I finished it, you get the normal sad when you really like something. So it was cool just to see him on screen one more time, and I didn't know what was gonna
yeah,
happen.
that's a big part. And there was a good 6 month period after, or like a 3 or 4 month period after I first watched it, where the movie wasn't announced. So I thought, this is the end of Chuni. I'm not gonna see anymore. It's been 4 years. They're not gonna do anything else. And then, I hopped on, Discord or something, and somebody was like, "Hey, there's a new Chernobyl movie." I was like, "What?" You know, kind of. But it was definitely it was a good experience watching it, and it made me really appreciate the show even more than I already do.
Right. Thankfully, that discussion actually reminded me of two things before we get to the question I want to ask you, which was the new OP. How'd you guys feel about it?
It was good. I don't really know what really else to say.
I mean,
Good.
I can say a little more. The visuals were nice, very colorful. Um, I don't know. I feel because they played it in the trailer, and I watched the trailer like probably about 30 to 40 times. So actually hearing the full thing, made me very happy. And I vividly remember this moment that when the title card shows up, and she's walking, like I just had this immense joy that like we're finally here. Like, I've just been watching Chernobyl for 12 hours, and it was like, even though I love Chernobyl, it was like during those last 6 episodes of season 2, I was like, I kind of just want to be done and get to what I actually want to watch. But I really like the new OP. I think it's probably my second favorite out of the three. Um, that actually leads me to segue into the ending song, not the Sparkling Daydream, the
Hmm.
actual the original song that they made for it for the end. That was really that really captured a lot of the what the movie was trying to put down. I thought it was really good.
Hmm. And the other thing I was gonna ask was the kiss scene.
Ooh.
It was really damn good. I
Yes.
loved the visuals. The visuals across the whole movie were really well animated, but especially there.
I would agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I'd say too. I mean, okay, I'll be 100% honest. Since I was very involved in getting as much information about the movie that I could, I was spoiled as to
Right.
that like a good week or so before, and I was like, ah, like
Oh.
it was a screenshot that I got, so I even saw what was going down, and I only looked at it for like half a second, and I went, oh, I click, but even though I saw that and I saw where it roughly was, I was still taken by surprise because of just how kind of engrossed I was in that scene. It was really just a beautiful scene. I really like how she gets embarrassed at first, and she's like, "Well, I," and Yuta's like, "Well, did you not like it?" And she's like, "Well, I didn't hate it." And then they kind of just slowly, kind of awkwardly, kind of shuffle, and then they do it like two more times, and then they, uh, a part that got me really kind of not maybe teary, but very emotional is when, uh, Yuta and they both start just kind of shouting at the ocean because they're so happy, and usually we'll see Yuta kind of be reserved about that kind of thing, but he's just getting all of his emotions out. And then, when all the yellow light comes up, the when they both were like, "Oh, Yuta, oh Rika," kind of that like, and then they hug. That was very, I don't know. You can hear like really a lot of joy in their voices and stuff. And I really liked how after they hug, the camera kind of spins around and whatnot.
Oh yeah, the camera spinning around was very well done.
Hmm.
Just with the whole, I'm trying. I remember it was like lines of light, if I remember correctly, from like
Oh yeah,
stars or something. I'm trying
that
to.
there's actually a thing about that I could say. I was talking to V2 about this, but if you pay close attention, that the kind of pattern with the light and all of that, it's the same pattern and the same lights as the Unseen Horizon from season one, except it's golden. So the Unseen Horizon is supposed to represent
Nice.
her father. So V2 and I were talking about how, and this is just theory crafting or whatever. I don't know if they actually intended this, but it'd be nice to think that that would symbolize, her father kind of also being with her there and accepting who she is as well. So they kind of haven't left that behind. And I guess is another thing. I wish they kind of addressed her father a little bit more after season one, but um,
Hmm.
I thought that was a nice nod to uh, what we'd seen before, and it kind of. I mean, I didn't notice it until my second or third watch of the movie, but it really, it was a nice touch.
It was, and I completely agree with you about them addressing her father more. I think that would have been a good thing in season two.
Yeah.
Um, so now that we did those two, Hip, it's no secret that CHUUNI holds a very special place in your heart because of your relationship with a woman who goes by many names, most of which are nicknames made up from her username you gave her. Bohemian
Yes.
Rhapsody,
Yeah.
Motimer, Motition,
Don't forget
and many more.
Motalion.
So,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, Motilia. Would you, within what of course you and everyone's favorite, what should we say, Parmesan cheese
You're trying too
would
hard.
be comfortable with you sharing?
Trying.
Wait, what? What were you asking? I got distracted by
So,
the joke.
sorry, I couldn't get it right the first time. I knew I had to come up with another one on the spot. Clearly, I was not prepared enough for today.
Apparently not. You need to have your
I'm
jokes
just gonna
written
blame it
down.
on the fact that I've been sick for the last week. um, so, is there anything you would care to expand upon with your relationship with Motition that has made it so special for you in
Uh,
your heart that you
yeah,
haven't already
I would love
talked
to talk
about in your
about that.
first episode?
So I first
Hmm.
started watching it around the end of December of 2017. We started dating September of 2017, so it was still very young.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of our relationship, we were both very like kind of shy, and we didn't because none of us had been in a committed relationship before, really. Um, so even though that was fun and everything, it was very kind of scary in a way because we both didn't want to upset each other. We were both kind of shut off a little bit, and I very vividly remember. I mean, I still cared about her a ton, but it was still it felt like there was still kind of a gap between us at that time. But I vividly remember every single morning around getting up at around 5, right before the sun got up or whatever, and I'd watch about 2 episodes of Chunibyo, and then I'd go to school and I'd be with her and then have a good time, and eventually I would begin to associate that first watch of Chunibyo with being with her, and the messages of the first show about how both of them are closed off, they have a gap between them, really they spoke to me, and the I remember it was a Friday night when I finished season 1, and that message about how even though you know people are different, even though you can care about someone no matter how different they are, that then you can still care about them a bunch. It really really spoke to me, and it made me realize that even though we still have this gap between us and that we still have a long way to grow, that doesn't mean we have to be reserved and we have to hide things from each other. And it really inspired me, and I remember talking to her like right after I finished it and just being very I want to say I was just kind of gushing out, emotion. I was just telling her, all these things that it made me feel, and it really made me realize what it means to care about somebody like that, to be committed and to care about them for who they are, even though they might be different or embarrassing or whatever.
Right.
And it just, the messages of the show really just, like I said, they spoke to me, and it felt like it just was very relevant to what was going on. And so ever since then, whenever I'll rewatch it, I'll always immediately just go back to waking up at 5 a.m. and like whenever I hear Sparkling Daydream, I immediately go back to that. But it's really, it was really inspirational, and it helped me flesh out my emotions for her and whatnot. And a part that was another emotional part about it was the movie. The subs came out like 2 weeks after we'd moved in together, and it was crazy to think that when I started the show, we were only 2 or 3 months into a relationship, and now by the time the movie's out, we're living together, we have a house and all that, and it's like we've come that far, and it was really kind of special and emotional to be there with her and actually watch it right next to her instead of waking up at 5 a.m. and then watching it and then seeing her. It was like, and it was like, it almost felt like a parallel, because we see their relationship kind of advance and they become more comfortable with each other, and it was like, well, my relationship has also advanced and we've become more comfortable and we've gotten to this point where we can depend on each other very intimately. So it really it is definitely a huge part of why I think it's why I hold it as highly as I do, and it really it kind of it holds a special place, I'll put it that.
Yeah, I think that was very, as you would say, cute.
Yeah.
No, it was very heartfelt, and
Yeah.
I'm sure because Mo watches these.
Shout out to Mo.
She'll be very. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to hear that part, and it was certainly interesting to hear just now. It's just like hip is this mosaic of only good things.
I wouldn't say that, but I don't know. I think, and that's even another thing that CHUUNI taught me was, I don't know, just being yourself, doing what you enjoy, and not letting other people kind of get you down because of it. But also,
Right.
even if people aren't getting you down, you need to be aware of what you're doing, because things can hurt you. Like I'd say to an extent, Rika's Junibyo could hurt her in a way, but like you said in the movie, it's kind of like it's this cocoon that she's in, and she has it not because she's trying to hide from the real world. It's because she needs time to develop and mature and blossom into a butterfly, like he says. So I really think that that's a good message for me in my life, and that's kind of spoke to me personally in that way. So I definitely think that's another thing that Shunobyo has done for me. It's really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of new perspectives, and yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yes.
I like that, and it's really taken the core messages away from CHUUNI and actually putting them in the real world, and it's meaningful.
Well, I mean, someone who's seen the original show, the original series, seasons 1 and 2, 5 times in the movie. I think I'm over 15 times now for the movie. And I have the soundtrack like on a playlist of the best songs, and I've listened to probably a good over 50 hours of the soundtrack just on repeat. So
it never ceases to amaze me the depths of your fandom for CHUUNI.
Yeah.
we have heard these we'll call them these hip factoids for months now since I've known you, and it's still like, oh yeah, it's still amazing. Like, yeah, I've seen it like 15 times now.
hold on a second.
Oh, it's okay. Well, Joe, have we hit about everything now? Talked about the animation.
What was that?
Talked about. I said, Joe, have we hit just about everything now?
I'd say so. I think pretty much
Yeah, so
everything.
I'm just going through the rundown in my head, like the animation, characters,
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
favorite,
Sorry about that.
funnies. Oh, it's all fun.
It's all good.
Okay, what were we talking about?
We were just going through to make sure we had hit everything:
Yeah.
animation, music, funnies, favorite, least favorite, etc. Is there anything specifically you guys that we're saying if we're gonna talk CHUUNI, we got to talk about this that we forgot about?
I think we hit everything.
Yeah, I think we pretty much hit all.
Oh
hit
yeah,
all the,
I wanted to say another thing. You were talking about seeing the movie. I was gonna say how, even though I've seen the movie 15 times, rewatching everything with like you guys and Karko and Shin, I would say, really made me appreciate it so much more because I can watch it over and over and enjoy it as much as I want, but having somebody there and seeing how much they enjoy it is like it's very gratifying and kind of seeing their first reaction to it. So that definitely those watches with everybody, and the watches I might do in the future with people, they really they meant a lot, and it made me appreciate it even more because seeing how other people feel about this thing that I care about is kind of it's fun. But yeah.
Well, if that's just about everything from you guys, any last minute scenes or shout outs you want to talk about?
I don't know.
Oh, I think I'm good.
Alright, well, as always, thank you guys for coming on. It's always great when I have you on, Joe, and it's always great when you're on as well, Hip. Thank y'all so much.
Bye.
Thank you to all our fantastic viewers. You guys are absolutely the best. We can't thank you enough. Hope you guys have a great holiday season. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Enjoy. See ya.
Bye bye.
See ya.